Hello everyone, my name is Lucio Mellace, and recently I finished the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep by Tenzin Wangyal RInpoche. This is a 1998 book about how to control our dreams, and it has a spiritual leaning towards itself. On the back, there is a quote which says, "If we cannot carry our practice into sleep, Tenzin Wangyal RInpoche writes, "If we lose ourselves every night, what chance do we have to be aware when death comes? Look to your experience in dreams to know how you will face in death. Look to your experience of sleep to discover whether or not you are truly awake." In the introduction, it says, "We spend a third of our lives sleeping. No matter what we do, however virtuous or non-virtuous our activities, whether we are murderers or saints, monks or libertines, every day ends the same. We shut our eyes and dissolve into darkness. We do fearlessly, even as everything we know as me disappears. After a brief period, images arise and our senses of self arises with them. We exist again in the apparently limitless world of dream. Every night, we participate in these most profound mysteries, moving from one dimension of experience to another, losing our sense of self and finding it again, and yet we take it all for granted. We wake in the morning and continue in real life, but in a sense, we are still asleep and dreaming. The teachings tell us that we can continue in this deluded, dreamy state at night or wake up to the truth." So, recently, I've been having nightmares, mostly about dying, probably due to my interest in the overall topic of death, as well as my grandfather passing a couple years ago, which increased the interest of death. And alongside of that, I have a mood disorder, which I go into depressive states where I focus on death primarily. When I wake up, I have this anxiety or rushes sensation in my chest, and I wake up with from my arms tingly from here down to halfway down, and it's been annoying since most people have sleep pretty easily. I end up overthinking everything, even the inconsistencies of my thoughts and statements. In How Experience Arises, in the section called Ignorance, it states, "All of our experience, including dream, arises from ignorance." This is a rather startling statement to make in the West, so first let us understand what is meant by ignorance. Marikpa. The Tibetan tradition distinguishes between two kinds of ignorance: innate ignorance and cultural ignorance. Innate ignorance is the basis of samsara and the defining characteristics of ordinary beings. It is ignorance of our true nature and the true nature of the world, and results in entanglement with the delusions of a dualistic mind. So, most of our suffering, besides coming from attachment, also comes from ignorance. So, evil people in the past, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and the situation of the Soviet Foundation during the Gulag Archipelago book written by Solzhenitsyn, which is famously reintroduced by Jordan Peterson in his lectures and talks. These men were ignorant of goodwill, right action, and peace as well. In page 30, on a section called Liberating Emotions, it says, "The best response to negative emotion is to allow it to self-liberate by remaining in non-dual awareness, free of grasping and aversion. If we can do this, the emotion passes through us like a bird flying through space. No trace of its passage remains. The emotion arises and then spontaneously dissolves into emptiness. Um, some people are defined by negative emotions, such as depressive thoughts or suicidal tendencies. We cling to these emotions because in the West we are defined by our thoughts, along with our actions, but more so our thoughts these days, especially considering the notions of cancel culture. Moreover, if we control our response to negative thoughts, then we will have a better chance of surviving them than if we were to not control our response. While negative thoughts, like most things in the mind, arise and exit the mind, what matters is how we respond to them. On page 38, the author, Wangyal RInpoche, states, greed is the seed emotion of the hungry ghost Preta realm. Greed arises as a feeling of excessive need that cannot be fulfilled. The attempt to satisfy greed is like drinking salty water when thirsty. When we look in greed, we look outward rather than inward for satisfaction, yet we never find enough to fill the emptiness we wish to escape. The real hunger we feel is for the knowledge of our true nature. Greed is associated with sexual desire, its energetic center in the body, in the chakra behind the genitals. Generosity, the open giving of what others need, unties the hard knot of greed. The pretas are traditionally represented as beings with huge, hungry bellies and tiny mouths and throats. Some inhabit parched lands where there is not even a mention of water for hundreds of years. Others may find food and drink that they swallow even a little through their tiny mouths. The food bursts into flames, and their and, and aches stomachs and causes great pains. There are many kinds of suffering for pretas, but as a result, but all result from stinginess and opposing the generosity of others. There is the the Gordon quote from the movie Wall Street, where the character says that greed is good. The notion of this is that greed is, in some might view it, although I don't, as a manifestation of self overcoming, and how greed benefits others people's lives more than any other phenomenon in the world. Again, I don't agree with this. I'm just stating an alternative view to greed. Money mostly corrupts individuals more so than power, although power is also another likely indicate of a corrupt individual. On page 42, the book says all experience, waking and dreaming, have an energetic basis. This vital energy is called lung in Tibetan, but is better known in the West by its Sanskrit name prana. The underlying structure of any experience is a precise combination of various conditions and causes. If we're able to understand why and how an experience is occurring and reorganizing, recognize its mental, physical, and energetic dynamics, then we can produce those experiences or after them or alter them. This allows us to generate experience that support spiritual practice and avoid those that are detrimental. As as better than food, book reviews will say, get that coffee, and it is early in the morning. I do wake up at around 5 a.m. when I do sleep, mostly out of habit and also because I like to get a lot of things done before the afternoon, mostly due to my inability to sit still and being restless at night, moving around in bed and such. Now, this quote that I just read states that all experience, waking and dreaming, has an energetic basis. So this goes back to what I said prior, in which what arises in the mind must not stay in the mind, meaning that while we do have negative thoughts sometimes, how we respond to these thoughts is also important to consider, at least the notion of it as well. On page 48, the book discusses the notion of chakras. Chakras are little circles of energy located throughout your body. There is an argument to be made as to whether how many chakras points there are in the body, but the most typical view, or at least the Western view of chakras, is from the center of your forehead all the way down to the base of your spine. If you're interested in this, then book 2, near the finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang learns how to control his chakras. I say quotation marks because he doesn't inevitably, but it's an interesting perspective from a kid's show that utilizes chakras as well. In dream practice, we direct our attention into different areas in the body: the chakras at the throat, brow, and heart, and the secret chakra behind the genitals. A chakra is a wheel of energy and nexus of energetic connections. Channels of energy meet at particular locations in the body. The junctions of the channels from the energetic patterns that that, that are chakras. The major chakras are sites where many channels join. Chakras chakras are not really like the pictures drawn of them, of lotuses that open and close that have a certain number of petals and a certain color. Such images are only symbolic support for the mind, like maps that we use to help focus the intention of patterns of energy that exist at the site of the chakras. So, initially, I was more of an existentialist in the Sartrean and Nietzschean aspect, although they are similar in the sense that they are labeled as existentialists. More days, nowadays, I tend to be more spiritual in the Sam Harris type, or with Buddhist as a foundation and some beliefs in Hinduism only in aspects of reincarnation and the soul. Here on we're jumping ahead a bit. On page 84, the text says, a successful dream yogi must be stable enough in presence to avoid being swept away by the winds of karmic emotions and lost in the dream. As the mind steadies, dreams become longer, thus fragmented, and more easily remembered, and lucidity is developed. Waking life is equally enhanced as we find that we are increasingly protected from being carried away by habitual emotion reactions that draw us into distraction and unhappiness, and can instead develop the positive traits that lead to happiness and that support us in the spiritual journey. So I do not have a spiritual guru. There are none available in where I live. So I plan to go to India either before or after I go to France. I mostly listen to online gurus like Mujiji on YouTube and Sadhguru and Thich Nhat Hanh who recently passed away, sadly, for all of us. On page 93, it says, the second foundational practice works to further decrease grasping and aversion, whereas the first preparation is applied in the moment of encountering phenomenon and before reaction occurs. The second practice is engaged after a reaction has arisen. Essentially, they are the same practice, distinguished only by the situation in which the practice is applied by the object of attention. So this is a section in grasping and aversion. When we grasp onto things, we lose a part of ourselves because we are no longer focused on ourselves as a whole, but rather ourselves as a part of ourselves. When we meditate, it is best to have a clear mind and not be distracted by worldly thoughts or by possessions we have, and to not take pride in our possessions. If you're interested in Tibetan Buddhism, this book by Wangyal RInpoche is an excellent book, and although I butchered his name probably, sorry for that for you enthusiasts. It is still a good book, and I use it for my fiction writing as well. I'm writing a book about a Christian allegory set in the post-apocalypse, which is mostly the road and the Last of Us and Children of Men at this point, and I'm trying to find some new material to incorporate into these ideas. Also, the lessons here are very profound and can help you improve your life in a Nietzschean self-overcoming sense. That is all for today, and as always, I really appreciate you taking your time to watch my content. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a good day.